If you and your spouse are getting divorced and you're wondering about whether you or your spouse should leave the family home, then this is the vlog for you. Hi, I'm Caitlin Jenkins and this is the Family Law Vlog. One of the questions that often comes up early on when people are separating and divorcing is whether one of them should move out of the family home. Now, inevitably, if people are separating, this can be a time of quite great tension, and it can make it difficult to live in the home together, particularly if there are children and both of the couple are trying to keep things as calm as they can for the children, even if they're going through a difficult times themselves emotionally. The first factor that you need to think about is, of course, most importantly, safety. So if you're in an abusive relationship and you're concerned for your safety or that of your children or others who live in the house, then you need some urgent advice, legal advice pretty quickly, because you've got some quite important decisions to make about whether it's possible or appropriate for you to carry on living in the house and kept safe. There are applications that you can make to the court for what are called non-molestation injunctions, which keep people safe, or occupation orders, which regulate who lives in the house and when, but they are quite important steps to consider taking, and so that is an area you'd need some urgent advice on. So leaving safety to one side for a minute then, what are the other factors that you should bear in mind if you're divorcing and you're thinking about one of you moving out of the house? Well, the first is a practical consideration. Is there anywhere else that one of you could go and one of you could go easily? So do you own a different property? Do you have some family who live around the corner and who have some spare space? Do you have the financial means to be able to rent somewhere or to buy somewhere else? Those practicalities are going to be really important here, both so that it's fair for you and your spouse in this interim and difficult time, but also for children. So if you are going to move out or your spouse is going to move out and you do have children, it's important to bear in mind what's also in their best interests. Often that means as minimal upheaval as possible, but it does very much depend on the circumstances of your particular family, the ages and stages of the children. So, for example, what might suit two little ones who are still at home and not yet at school might be quite different to what is practical if you have children in their late 10s, 11s, 12s, something like that, or indeed those in their teenage years who are approaching important school exams. So if you or your partner are thinking of moving out, one of the things you need to think very early on about is how the children could then spend time with each of their parents if you're living in separate properties. Will that parent come back to the house, the original house, to see the children, or will the children spend time with each parent? And that obviously therefore is a really important factor as you think about whether it's practical or appropriate for one of the parents to move out. A further factor you need to think about if you're thinking about moving out or your spouse is what each of your intentions are in relation to the home for the long term. So do you want to keep it, or does your spouse who's thinking about moving out want to keep it? What will actually happen to the house will be the subject of further discussion and negotiation between you about the financial arrangements overall. And so that's the subject matter really of a separate vlog about finances and how they're dealt with on divorce. But at this early and interim stage, it is relevant to think about what you want to happen to the house. So if, for example, you want to move out because that seems to be the right thing for you and in the best interests of your children, then that doesn't necessarily mean that you couldn't keep the house for the long term, but it might make it more difficult in any negotiations or court negotiations. So that's a final factor you need to bear in mind. So those are the various factors that people take into account when they're thinking about when one or other of them should move out in the early days of a divorce or separation. But as always with the Family Law Vlog, you should get some legal advice on your particular circumstances and how those factors might play out for you from a specialist family lawyer. At the end of this vlog, you'll find my details and the details of the rest of the family law team at Mills & Reeve, who may be able to help you, together with our resources online from our other websites, which might also be helpful too.